Good morning. I am Michael. This is the Morning Burrito. That is my partner,
Eric.
and we are back
We
together
are
again.
back. We are back. I hope you missed me.
I did miss you.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I missed you too.
I had to deal with a partner who didn't talk a whole lot.
Yeah, but he was sexy.
I can't believe you just said that.
Well, he
about
took my spot.
a
right?
Christmas cactus.
I know, it was great.
But he does sing and dance.
He
so
does. I still dance better though.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Well, we spent a few weeks, Eric, since you weren't here, talking about some Christmas traditions.
That is true.
And we also talked about the Christmas story. I was unapologetically a pastor that day.
That was probably a good week to do that too.
Yeah, especially because you
Yeah.
weren't here.
Yeah.
No, but we talked through the Christmas story. It was good. It was a very good discussion. And today we are going to do our year in review, which in 2020 doesn't
Man.
seem like it's going to be all that fun.
A lot happened this year.
Yeah, when as I was telling you in our show prep, as I began to just look through timeline wise what took place in 2020, I was like, oh, this is a lot more depressing than I thought it was.
I gotta know, what'd you get for Christmas?
That's a great question. I got a snowsuit. I'm actually wearing the pants right now, not because there's snow, but because it's pretty cold outside, and after this, I'm going fishing.
You're going
so,
fishing.
So I had to make sure I was
Yeah.
gonna be warm
Good.
on that fishing boat. So, but actually, for me, the greatest gift this Christmas was watching my older daughter
Okay.
open gifts.
All right, I'll
that
give it to her.
that was cool. But my best personal gift was from my buddy here, the new fishing rod and reel.
I
mean,
have
that was,
scored.
It was
I've landed.
actually I mean, my wife would tell you my mouth dropped to the floor. I could not believe what I opened.
This isn't why I asked the question. I just
I know,
want to know how your
but
Christmas
I
was.
saw that too, and I was like, this has got to be a gag gift. Like he's got to be messing with
Right,
me.
right.
And,
Staff white elephant gift, right?
Yeah, but thank you for that. It was an incredible gift that I certainly was not expecting. So, and now I get to catch steelhead with it, so that'll be fun. Hopefully,
Hopefully.
I didn't get one last time, so hopefully I get one
That's
this
right.
time.
That's right.
What did you
Well,
get?
good. Man, I got like this tin of cookies that's added to my waistline.
There you go.
And it kind of messed up dinner one night.
There you go.
And that was from you.
That was for me.
It was great.
Yeah, that was my lousy attempt at being sneaky
No,
by trying
whatever.
to put it on your doorstep.
Whatever. Yeah, that you got busted.
Yeah, I did by your son and your daughter.
Yep, you got busted.
So how is the 12 days of coffee? Have you completed it?
I have not completed it yet.
Okay.
The 12 days is going to hopefully last like 12 months.
Oh, well, there you go.
So
Is it good coffee?
yes, I'm trying to be cautious with it.
Okay.
So it's like each packet. Actually, the youth group gave me this.
Yeah.
Like this whole packet of coffee. It's like 3 cups, like per package, and it's like each package is a different flavor. And man, it's like heaven. It is. It's been good. So
Well, as we thought through a gift for you, coffee is the one thing where you can't
it's the
strike out.
It's the go-to. You got to admit it.
So just
All right. So back online here.
macro looking big picture at 2020. What is something you've learned in 2020?
Something I've learned. I've learned that the DMV is extremely ridiculous.
I agree with that.
That's what
statement.
I have learned that. That's probably not what you were wanting though.
I mean, hey, that's we don't have to get deep. I'm just saying, like, I would concur with that because my last trip to the DMV, a little frustrating, little frustrating to say the least. So, but I am an Oregonian now. I do have Oregon plates on my car after a year plus. Of
I did
being
see
here,
that.
which
I did
is
see that.
great.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I now have a license and a plate.
Did you get stickers with it?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I'm good.
so-
I'm good till 2022. I'm golden.
Good. Well, I'm registered, but I don't have stickers for my plate, so I look like I'm illegal.
Well, you better get that done before December 31st.
No, it's done.
Oh, good.
But they said your stickers will be there like in 12 weeks. It's like, whatever.
That's so weird.
Anyway, so I don't know. One thing I learned that honestly, you got to be flexible in life. I always thought I was a flexible guy, but this year has pushed that to the max. I think for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. But man, I've had to be flexible in things I did not know I could be flexible in.
What are you doing, the splits or?
No, I'm not even wearing spandex. I mean, just being flexible in life.
Yeah, I would say that's a good one to learn, and I think everybody has had to learn that at some degree or some level this year. Everybody has learned how to just kind of roll with the punches because every day is different.
Well, then I think the second big thing I think I've had to learn is how do you talk to people about politics without getting in a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't learn that.
I didn't learn. I don't know that I have
Failed
learned that
big
either.
time.
But I'm sure we'll get to at least some of. We're not going to talk about the politics, but we will talk about some political events that took place this year as we walk through the timeline. And some of this stuff you'll remember, some of it you probably don't want to remember, and some of it you probably don't remember because it wasn't really significant in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
But some of it's significant in our lives or the church's life, and some of it is stuff that didn't happen here. But we'll start with something that is probably personal for you, at least to a certain extent.
I'm starting with my extra hot burrito today.
There you go.
Yeah.
Extra hot?
It is. I added extra jalapenos.
Ew, gross.
And I asked him to put a little bit of the jalapeno sauce, like just drizzle it.
That's gross.
That's what she said.
Ugh.
It was great.
Nasty.
Oh, go ahead, though.
Okay. So when we came into 2019, or 2020, out of 2019, there was already something happening in our world that had a lot of significance at the time, and that was the Australian bushfires.
Yep.
They burned 47 million acres in, I think it was it Western Australia?
Eastern.
Eastern, okay. And displaced thousands of people and killed at least 34.
Yeah, people were jumping off the shoreline into boats just to get away from the fire and drowned and died, and it was bad.
Yeah, I remember you had to do a video or announcement of some sort or something on Facebook that said that your son is safe because your son was a missionary at the time out in Australia.
Yeah,
so.
People were asking, hey, what's Graydon doing? And he was safe. So Western Australia seemed to miss a lot of that. So
yeah, but that was definitely a huge thing for Australia as a country. Then I'm going to make a very brief statement about this because I don't know how many people would even care. I don't even know that you and I really care about this, but I'm going to state it anyway.
This is not the show just to bring things up that you don't think people care about.
Yeah, but it's your in review. It's something significant that happened. It's only happened once that in my lifetime. I don't know if it's once in your lifetime.
You're getting romantic here.
Prince Harry
I knew
and
it.
wife Meghan Markle decided to leave British royalty. I don't know. I'm sure I know there are some women who watch, so maybe that's something that they care about.
And I care. I really do.
I don't care. I'm sure it's happened before, but it's never happened in my lifetime. So it does have significance in that, a prince and his wife, who's not royalty, chose to leave royalty altogether. And, they've moved to Canada, I think, or something. I don't know.
They're a Canadian.
I think they might be here. I don't know. Who knows? I don't watch entertainment news, so I don't know. But I noticed that on the timeline. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to mention this, but there are people who probably do care about that, so might as well mention it.
Well, I hope you care because we mentioned it.
So for me personally, there was for us together, there was a significant event on January 29th.
There was.
What was that event?
It was my birthday.
What else happened on that day?
I had a party.
With who?
I had to share my birthday this year with your daughter.
That's right. My youngest Clara.
Yes.
She decided to arrive on the planet at the same time as your birthday.
It is awesome.
The funny thing, for those of you who don't know us personally or don't go to our church, how many weeks did you spend talking about that? From the day her due date?
Like a year, like 8 months out of the 9, I think.
From the time we got here, basically, even when we were interviewing, I think.
I predicted it.
You said she's going to be born on my birthday, and I'm like, that's like a week early. There's no way that's going to happen.
I'm just saying prophecy right here.
And her original due date, I think, was like February 4th or 5th or something like that. And for her to come on your birthday is just one of the funniest things.
I couldn't believe it.
It's just awesome.
It was great.
And I'll never forget you coming into our room the first time, which, I mean, now you look back and they don't even allow. We were worried about the flu at the time, right?
Right.
I haven't gone into coronavirus yet, but
right.
The flu was an issue at that time. And so we weren't supposed to have a whole lot of visitors.
Right.
And you come in with Gabrielle and your wife, and you're wearing Christmas hats and stuff.
It was great.
Or birthday hats. It was quite fun to have you, and we got some good pictures out of that, so that was good.
So I got a life partner in crime now.
You do.
So as she gets like older and we hang out more, and I get to mentor her a little bit more. Oh, dude, you're in trouble.
That's a scary thought.
It's gonna be great.
So also in January, talking about a epidemic or pandemic now. The WHO officially announced COVID-19 as a dangerous and lethal virus, which was the start of what has been a very, very, very long road in 2019 or 2020.
Well, I remember we all sat there and were like, whatever.
Yeah, well, because it was in China at the time, and it wasn't long after that our president decided to ban travel from China, so we thought we were safe. And again, there will be more comments about this later, but that was obviously not the case.
Right.
January 29th was also a very bad day. Even though it was a good day for us personally, it was a bad day for the world, particularly sports fans. That was the day that Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others died in a helicopter crash, which unfortunately, I think, for everybody was recorded and then put out all over the news and internet. And so everybody who wanted to, who had morbid sense of curiosity, went and watched. I was one of them. And there's nothing more horrific than watching a helicopter like that just crash into the side of a mountain. So one of the greatest, if not the greatest basketball player. I mean, some people argue that, I don't, but one of the greatest basketball players certainly to ever live, and a really good man to boot. So that's January. Do you have anything else for January?
Yeah, it's just my birthday with Clara.
That's amazing that was all in 1 month.
Yeah, it was great.
Great way to start
2020. Good start to the year.
Yeah.
It was a good kickoff.
Then very early into February, we had the impeachment, February 5th, of Donald Trump. Now, that was
that's
actually
when it started.
That's actually when they impeached him. But the process was a whole lot longer than that.
Right.
It started in October, November of the previous year, or something like that, I think. But
it seems like it's been forever.
It seemed like a really long time. But ultimately, he was acquitted by the Senate. We're not going to make a political statement on whether that's good or bad, but he was impeached, which is a significant event. It's only happened 2 other times in our history as a country, so I would say it's a significant thing that he was impeached. No president, though, has ever been removed. Just a trivia note for you. 3 have been impeached, but neither of the 3
been close.
It's been close. Then also in February, this is another kind of disappointing thing, I suppose. We all know about Harvey Weinstein, a famous director and producer and whatever, filmmaker. He began, probably to his own dismay, he began what is now called the Me Too movement.
Yeah, he started his own movement.
Yeah. His abuse of women and whatnot. That was in February, and so that's been ongoing now. Which now leads us into March, which for our church and for us started out with a bang. I mean, it was a great start to March.
Yeah, we started with our 70th anniversary. Like, our church is 70 years old, and it's kind of a weird year to celebrate a church anniversary. Usually it's, you go 75, then you go 100. But, it was on the heart to, hey, let's party at 70. So we partied at 70, and man, great weekend.
It's amazing when you look at that in hindsight. That was the last time we got together as a church.
That was the next week we were closed because of COVID. So
we had a party.
And we didn't even talk about it that day. You know, I mean, it was like COVID didn't exist.
It was amazing how fast things went. That's where we'll get next. March 9th was when cases started popping up in the United States, pretty significant at this point. And the stock market crashed, which for me, I'm somewhat of a history buff. So when the stock market crashed that day, I hearkened back in my mind to all that I've learned about the 20s and when the stock market crashed in 29. And I'm thinking, oh man, we're in big trouble. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was the largest single day loss in the history of the Dow Jones, which, I mean, the Dow Jones is the big one. And to see that happen was pretty, I wouldn't say I was worried, but I mean, I personally thought, well, this is a lot more significant than just a virus now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I panicked. I mean, all of us lost a lot in our retirement funds that day. But even though it was the biggest day loss, the market was still higher than it had been in previous years. I mean, we didn't dip below, the last 10 years of the market. So even though we had this market and then the dip, I mean, it's a huge dip. It went down to 18, and now we're up to like 30, almost 31. So I mean,
so it has recovered.
It's recovered greatly.
Following,
I'm not even closer to retirement, but at least something came back. I got a few more pennies.
There you go. March 23rd, for those of you who are Oregonians, you will remember that day. That was the day that Governor Kate Brown issued the first stay-at-home order for the entire state.
The first?
Yeah, because that was the beginning.
Has there ever been a second? We've never been out of our house yet.
I mean, that's what's begun what we call the COVID-19 lockdowns.
Yep.
We've had a series of them at this point. I mean, it's been on and off, on and off, on and off. But March 23rd was the beginning for at least Oregonians. It actually happened in other states earlier. But
do you remember the fear that came over everybody?
Yeah, I do. And I mean, it's kind of continued for some. But the terror in some of the people that we know was palpable. I mean, you could feel it when you talk to them. The terror in their eyes and their voice.
Yeah, and then the run on toilet paper.
Yeah, I forgot to add that. That's right. The run on toilet paper.
Get it? Run on toilet. Anyway,
that's so gross.
I know. It's the morning burrito.
Oh man.
But yeah, just the fear that came over everybody as we took those first 14 days. Was it 14 days the first round? Might have been longer. It seemed
might have been a little bit longer.
4 weeks.
It might have
maybe.
been 2. Yeah, it was somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was a long time, and it was hard for me because I'm a go guy, and you asked earlier what one thing I learned. I think that pushed me after the first 3 weeks. I began to see, okay, God's given us something here in 2020 to relax, slow down, and not have to live life with a full calendar like I've always lived my whole career.
Yeah.
And so this year I've worked really hard at not filling my calendar as full as it was pre-COVID.
I just thought of something that happened in that time, that first lockdown, that we didn't write down.
Did you gain your 15?
I mean, I probably. I mean, I don't know. I was heavy, so I'm still heavy. No. Do you remember what we did while locked down here at the church?
Oh man.
You remember the significant thing that we did over the course of a couple days? The closet in the shop.
Oh, yeah. We threw a lot of stuff away.
Two and a quarter tons.
Yeah.
Of trash.
Yeah. We cleaned house, people. I'm telling you.
Yeah. We and I think we came back right about the time of Easter. I think that's when we came back. So it had to be about 3 or 4 weeks.
We seized the moment.
But I remember you were like, you know what? We're gonna take advantage of this. We're gonna clean house, and so we cleaned.
And we didn't have to do it at night this time because nobody could leave their house.
That's true.
It was great.
No, but it was nice to finally have a shop you can get the van into and all of that. It was pretty nice. Was a lot of work though. That was a lot of trash.
It was.
That was a lot of trash. In May, we saw. After all of the shutdowns, as things opened up a little bit started opening up across the country, we had several deaths of African Americans at the hands of police officers. We're not going to argue justified or unjustified. That's not what this is for. But it did spark a lot of protesting and violence across cities across the country, and that has changed. I think. I mean, we were already in a process of change with racial justice and racial issues, but I think that has, at least for a good long while now, has changed the makeup of our country. Would you agree with that? That was a significant change in our country?
It was. I think it was a significant change. I'm not sure it was all good.
No,
and we're not getting into that, but I'm not sure it was all bad either. But yeah, huge. I think it forced people to have some conversations, especially conversations even in the church. And it's pushed. I mean, I'll take the church side of things. It's pushed some darkness into some areas, in the Christian life. But it's also shed some light in some of the dark areas too. So, it's definitely added a balance as far as conversation goes. And one thing you have to learn is how do you have those conversations?
Yeah.
I mean, we have people. We got to talk to our kids about racism and about violence and about what's going on. it's like we've never had that conversation before.
Yeah.
But we have. So it brought some things to light, and it was definitely a scary time.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, for us, especially because we live so close to Portland and Seattle, and those were two of the epicenters of the protests. I mean, still are. Certainly, Portland is still part of it. It's scary when you see cities, Bend, Portland, Salem, are all having these violent protests, and you wonder, are they coming to us? Are we going to see that in our own town? Because there's nothing we want less than people getting hurt in our town over anything, but specifically racism. Because you would think racism would be a pretty simple thing. Don't be racist.
You would think, but we're not that smart sometimes.
I guess.
Yeah, we're not.
So we kind of referenced this earlier, but this has been the last 2 years, but certainly 2020 has been the year of political division.
Yep.
And we saw an interesting Democratic Party primary that ended in June, and with Joe Biden obviously becoming the candidate for the Democrats. That was actually fairly interesting. There was 45 different candidates at one point, something like that.
Yep.
Republicans in 2016 had about the same amount. But for Joe Biden, he's an old man. There's no shading it. For him to rise to the top of that crop is actually pretty interesting. An old white guy makes it to the top.
Yep.
But he was the former vice president, so good for him. That happened in June, and then this is significant. The murder hornet.
Yeah, I actually thought we saw one of those. Like we were camping, and we had this hornet show up, and we kind of freaked out. So we put it in a baggie and took it down to the little forest, girl that runs the camp, and that's not a murder hornet. Man, it was looking like a murder hornet. Were those ever real?
Yeah, they actually just a few weeks ago. I guess it was probably more than a few weeks now.
Because we're in December,
probably in November, but they actually got rid of one of the nests. They found a nest, and
was it in your backyard?
No,
okay,
it's in Washington. We're not Washington. But yeah, the murder hornet. I mean, that's an Asian hornet, and
yeah,
say they have the potential to kill humans. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Of course, that had to happen in 2020 after everything we've already talked about.
What else could go that way, right?
Murder hornets. Then we had on August 4th the explosion in Beirut, which is not a funny thing at all.
Huge.
It killed 190, injured a whole lot more than that.
Yep.
But there is something at least a little humorous if you look at it.
Somebody wasn't thinking.
Somebody wasn't thinking because they put almost 3 tons, or 3,000 pounds rather, of ammonium nitrate, which is a highly explosive material.
Next to another highly explosive material.
Yeah, next to fireworks.
Right.
A really, really intelligent decision right there. And obviously it had deadly consequences.
That day that story broke on the news, I went right back to 9/11.
The video was absolutely horrific.
Yeah, I just went back because I didn't know what the story was. I was getting into the story late, and I was looking at the pictures, and I went right back to 9/11 thinking, man, another part of the world's been hit. And in the middle of everything else that we're dealing with, from murder hornets and corona to, the political scene. I just remember I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my computer screen and I'm like, oh, Lord, help us. Help us as a team know how to lead our people in this. And then to find out it was fireworks and chemicals. Yeah, I mean, I was thankful it wasn't. Did they ever say it was terrorism?
No,
because there for a while they talked about it.
They said it was accidental.
Yeah. So that was big though.
It was a bad decision.
Yeah.
A really, really stupid decision. Yeah. And I mean, it had devastating consequences. Yep. Beirut, I mean,
kind of shook the earth.
Literally.
Yeah.
But I mean, it changed that city. I mean, that city was a very large chunk of it was destroyed. Do you see the video, by the way, of the that couple that had just gotten married when that thing went off? They were taking pictures. Mm-mm. Yeah, there's a video of this, this young couple that had just gotten married in Beirut.
Yeah, I did see that.
And the bride is in her dress and whatever, and then all of a sudden you just see the rush of wind and dust and stuff.
Yeah,
just amazing. Now, the summer was not all bad.
Summer wasn't bad.
We had a lot of bad things that took place in the summertime, but what were some of the good things that happened in the summer of 2020? for us as a church?
Well, I worked on my tan a little bit.
You were not very successful.
I was. I had a line actually. My wife likes.
Tan?
Well, she doesn't like the farmer tan thing, but she doesn't ever get anything other than that. So, I know that's too much information, but yeah, I don't know. I think for summertime, it was a relief just to get outside and get back with people. We were kind of a little more lax in whatever the COVID shutdowns were at that time, except for with church goes, we went outside to the park, and that was great. People really like being out in the park and doing that. In fact, we actually had a porta potty. That was like huge thing for us this year.
Neat.
So we go to the church, or we go to have church in the park, and of course all the restrooms are closed, and they, it's like for whatever reason. But a man in our church has a company and said, "Hey, we'll give you a porta potty." So we went every Sunday morning out to his place, hooked it up to the tailgate, pulled the porta potty in, parked it in the lot, and anyway, that was huge.
It was huge. It was a big deal for us.
I mean, because we have people that they need a restroom,
Well, and up until we started doing the church in the park, we had seen a lot of people that we could not see.
Right.
There was a lot of our person list that we were not able to be around, and for us to be able to be outside, and we had at different points 120, 130 people in the park. It was amazing.
And now we're back inside, and we don't see those people anymore, which is sad. We miss you.
Well, church in the park is a little difficult when it's 30 degrees outside.
I know. It's like, hey, build a fire and go. They'll come.
So one of the things that maybe people don't quite understand or realize, unless they're affected directly by it, is that in this time of pandemic, there are certain things that we have taken for granted that have gone away or have changed very drastically. Things like funerals.
Right.
And as pastors, we know that, but explain that a little bit.
Well, let's back up before you get to the funeral, though. You got the ER visit.
Oh yeah, well that's true.
That usually happens before the funeral. But we can't go to the hospital anymore. And I like to. I just that's part of who I am. Part of my heart is be there with people when their needs are. And man, I've had to really I've struggled this year over that because. Now I no longer get a phone call saying anybody's in the hospital. I can't go see them at the hospital. I can't go to the ER with them. And they've been in the hospital, out of the hospital for a month before I ever get a phone call now going like, oh yeah, we were in the hospital. And I mean, so that's been hard. But same thing with people that have been near the end of their life, has been hard, because we don't know the details, because we're not in relationship the way the church is supposed to be in relationship right now. And even though we try, and we're working really hard at it.
Right.
But yeah, funerals, we've lost some good people this year. And not to COVID, but not being able to have their memorial services, has been hard. And not to be able to go hug the spouse, extremely difficult.
Right.
Not to be able to have the church come alongside them and,
food and all of those
yeah,
things.
I mean, it's been very hard. So yeah, the loss of life this year, has been very hard thing to deal with as a church.
It's not just us either. I mean, you have pastor friends all across the country.
Yeah, I mean,
all of mine have had real difficulty with it.
It's the same. And like we have one man in our church who did have COVID. He's up in the hospital. He's been there for I forget how many days, but like 19 days on a ventilator, and can't go see him, can't go pray for him. Used to be a pastor could get in about anywhere, right to a hospital. Nope, can't do that. But the flip side of the funeral is that there's also new life. Right. These quarantine's been good for some families. Quarantine had some downtime, I think, because now we have all these babies being born.
Yeah.
Is there a name for quarantine babies that are being born? Does anybody know?
I don't know, because my baby wasn't one of them. So
we should coin that.
What are you going to coin it?
I'm not really sure.
Q babies?
Q babies? The cuties? That's an orange, but
it's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so quarantine babies, I mean, they're kind of popping out right and left here.
Yep. We've had what? 2, 3,
4. Yeah,
like
4.
That.
And I know there's I can't say much, but
although they aren't really quarantine babies, because while they were born during quarantine, they weren't conceived during quarantine.
If you do the math backwards, and most of those, it starts in March.
Okay.
April.
I'll have to do that. I
don't do that. I did that.
Okay.
I checked up on somebody. I was like, oh, it's a quarantine, because I was going to do it as a sermon illustration. So
I'm sure that's coming.
I know, that's what pastors
I look forward to that.
But New Life, though, I mean, they're the cutest little things, and they're just running around all over the place.
It's some of the bright spot. It's like one of the big bright spots of a year that has been very difficult for many.
But still, even New Life is difficult because we can't show you off.
Right.
Well, I mean, they're not here.
One of our church people a couple weeks ago, they said to me, Pastor Michael, your daughter is getting so big. And I'm like, it didn't dawn on me until
she's supposed to.
As I thought about it, I was like, oh, they probably haven't seen much of her since March.
Yeah.
When she was a tiny, tiny little baby. Because, in fact, anniversary weekend was the first weekend we brought her to church, and that was the last. Until we reopened, that was the last time we had her at church, other than church in the park. So
good.
Yeah. Well, August did not. It started what I would deem as the cancer deaths of celebrities, because there were several cancer deaths that began in August.
Well, let's go back and talk to life for a second, though.
Okay.
Before you go back into the funeral mode, because we have baptisms. During the summer,
that was fun.
We did baptisms out at the river, which is
that was
freezing cold.
I'd never experienced anything quite like that before.
I know. I saw you. You were dancing in the water only because you were cold. Like.
He laughed at me because I had like a blanket and a towel, and I was cold.
It was cold. You get to a certain level in water, and it's just you're done.
It was like 55 degrees.
I don't. It's too cold. Whatever it is. But we also baptize in the park. And I've never baptized anybody in the park with just a bucket of water. But one of our ladies had cancer and is she's going through getting life in order as one would in her situation. And I went to the park, baptized her. It was great. Christ is big in her life. And then the church entered with her into some prayer and fasting, which we're going to talk about in our church anyway, coming here later this month and doing that in February, actually, 21 days of prayer and fasting. But through that time with us as a church praying for her, she sent me a note 2 weeks ago. Said, Pastor, did you hear this?
Yes, I heard. I couldn't believe it.
She said, her name, Emily, this is for you. Emily said, Pastor, doctor said I am 99.99999% cancer-free.
Unbelievable. Miracle.
Unbelievable. I'm planning her funeral.
Miracle.
I planned her funeral this summer with her.
I mean, we talked about it. We talked about her funeral multiple times with the staff.
Yeah.
And talked about, what was going to happen.
That's great.
It just, you talk about a lady who was prepared to go to see Jesus, and then Jesus like, no.
Just kidding.
Hold on.
Just kidding.
I got something else more important for you right now.
That's our God. Anyway, so it's big. So we had lots of New Life this summer.
And we have another another person in our church.
Well, they're a patient.
She is a patient. But she was given in January a 4-month or so life expectancy, and she's still alive.
Yep.
And it's December, and she's in Danielle. This one's for you. Another miracle. She's not cancer free at this point, but I mean, she has had an amazing turnaround and be able to survive as long as she has. And it's, we pray it continues. And then we have also Nancy from our church. And these are stories that are countless across the country of people who have seen miracles in the midst of the coronavirus. But we have seen several celebrities in between August and now that have died of cancer-related issues. The first of which was on August 28th. We learned of the death of Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman. He died of colon cancer, which I didn't even know he had colon cancer until he died. I don't know if I just missed that or whatever, but he was an amazing actor. Sad to see him lose his life, and he was young too. I mean, he was in early 40s. But then another seriously significant event for the United States. Again, 2020 just makes sense for this to happen. The wildfires in California, Idaho, Washington, Oregon. I mean, they were unbelievable. As somebody who's never really been through a wildfire, we had brush fires and things over in Oklahoma, but nothing like the wildfires out here. And what I'll never forget, having now gone through it, is the smoke that lasted for days and days. We took that trip down to the retreat center for our fall retreat to go check it out. And, going through the smoke was just crazy.
It took me back to the plagues in the Old Testament. It's kind of like, man, it is dark.
Yeah.
And you can't breathe. You couldn't get away from it.
You remember we were driving down that one road and we looked out to our left and saw the sun rising.
Yeah, it was totally.
But
cool.
it was like orange because of the smoke. It really wasn't the sun.
You can see how big the sun actually is.
It was unreal. I had never seen anything quite like it before. And it did a lot of damage. It displaced thousands of families.
Wiped out cities.
The Nazarene Church as a denomination has done an amazing job helping with care packs and trying to help people. We had how many churches in Oregon were burned? Was it 1, 2?
Oh, I
think there were a few that
I don't remember.
They were leveled because of the fires. I mean, it was amazing. Just another 2020ism, I guess. Then we had September 18th, Justice Ginsburg of the Supreme Court passed away.
Yep.
Second woman to ever sit on the Supreme Court, and obviously a leader in women's rights, and
brought up a lot of conversation.
Happened obviously right before the election, which caused all kinds of chaos with the new Supreme Court justice being nominated and elected to replace her, or appointed rather. Then we had October 2nd. President Trump tested positive for COVID-19.
Yep.
Interesting. October 6th, rock legend Eddie Van Halen had cancer and lost. November 3rd, Joe Biden won the presidency over Donald Trump. Now, obviously, it took a lot longer for that to be decided, but it did happen on November 3rd. And then November 8th, Alex Trebek, longtime Jeopardy host, died of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. But the good news, the last piece, at least in international news, I guess, from this year, December 14th was the day that the COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer began rolling out, marking the fastest creation of a vaccine in history. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. What a cool thing that our scientists, our doctors, were able to go from January to December and create a vaccine out of nothing. A virus that did not exist previously. That is something to marvel at. Again,
technology,
it's a miracle. Yep. That's just amazing to me.
Yep, it's one of those wonders.
As I look back on 2020, from my perspective, one of the things that has just been awesome to watch is. As we get, we talk about getting personal with HermNaz. One of the things that I've been able to watch with our people, but more specifically our student ministry. I have a lot of friends in student ministry. You have a lot of friends in student ministry, and a lot of student ministries have struggled during this pandemic. Mm-hmm. But to see our student ministry grow, our student ministry thrive in the midst of pandemic, to be able to have a summer camp, even though it was our own summer camp, we made it happen this year. To have lock-ins, to have fall retreat. Those things are, I have friends who didn't get that stuff to happen in their churches. And so our students have thrived in the midst of this. Now, school is a whole nother discussion for probably another day. But our kids have really thrived, and that's been really cool to watch. And I think our people have noticed that and taken note of it, which has been neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, our church in a whole has thrived. If you look at HermNaz and how we've handled the pandemic, it actually for us started, I believe, back last October when we were on staff retreat, and we talked about what's the theme for the year. And the theme for the year was living the gospel 2020, and the tagline was keeping Jesus of the gospel in the gospel. Mm-hmm. And if that was not our foundation for this year, we probably would be like a lot of those other churches. You gave a whole countless list of things that could have taken our vision off of Jesus in the gospel and gone like rabbit trail, right?
Right.
Rabbits could have ran around the world this year if you think about it. Why not? It's 2020. It could happen, but we didn't. We were able to stay strong. And our student ministry has not missed a beat. You and your staff have worked extremely hard at keeping that going, and even right down to this weekend having New Year's Eve lock-in. So a lot of churches aren't doing that and those kinds of things. But I watch our church and I go back to the prayer and fasting. That followed that theme when we introduced it last December, or January. We did prayer and fasting, and that has kept us on this path of. We're still a church. And I think with COVID this year in 2020, it's pushed us outside the lines, right? Sure. It's pushed the church in new ways. new ways of thinking, kind of way back, even in those of you that go to church and know anything about the church in Acts. It kind of puts us back in the church of Acts of you don't need a building, you just need the people, and you're the church wherever you are, and that's been kind of a reminding concept for some that have been around the church for millions of years, and then it's been a new concept for those that have been maybe here for hundreds of years, but it's a totally foreign thing for a lot of people part of our church because they don't know anything about church. So they're like, well, we got to have church in the building, and you really don't,
Well, I mean, this is kind of a microcosm what we're doing right here.
Right, exactly.
I don't.
This was born out of COVID.
I don't know if COVID-19 doesn't happen if this happens.
Right.
Which is pretty amazing. So let me ask you one last question. How has 2020 changed you?
Oh, well, priorities. I am more relaxed. I mean, in my mind, I'm more relaxed. In my heart, I'm more relaxed. I think I see things with a different urgency. Like my urgency perspective scale, it's weighted different. And so that's been kind of strange, actually, to look back on that. So I think how I approach things is a little bit different. So yeah, what about you?
I don't know. It's an interesting question for me because I think I've learned a lot. I could go through a whole litany of things that just from a logistical standpoint as a pastor that I've learned. But what has changed me is that when I look at ministry, there are things that for the entirety of my career as a pastor, I thought were important.
Right.
That now I know are not important, or at least less important. And the thing that matters most is relationship. And if I get the relationship part right with my students and with my worship team and our church as a whole, then the other stuff, it falls in line behind it. The administration is important, but it's not nearly as important as the relationship.
Right.
And it also, I guess the other thing is the reminder, it was a good reminder this year that the church is not a building, the church is a people. And, church online has not been easy. And I think from us as a staff, it's not been something we want to do. we would prefer not to do church online all the time, but we have become more flexible. So I guess that's another change. I mean, I'm a much more. I've always been that type A guy, so like I need things planned. 2020 has basically wrecked all of my plans.
Yeah, we've wrecked you on that one.
Yeah, I am not. I am much more capable of spontaneous stuff. I mean, we go back to our design for Christmas. It took 16 different like permutations of our plan to make the Christmas design on our stage.
And it still isn't the way we had it.
Correct. So yeah, but you know what? I also have learned, I guess this is the last piece, is that I've learned to be more positive and to look at things through a glass half full as opposed to a glass half empty perspective. Because God has really moved in the midst of a horrific year. And I mean, you can't do anything but say thank you.
Yeah, I mean, he really has. I think all of us, so bring this right down home to us here at Herm Naz, and maybe you can in your church too. If you can look at your church and how you're involved in your church, and if you're not involved in a church, man, jump in, because there is no greater business or company or group of people on the planet Earth other than the church. I mean, there is life that happens, and life only happens in the church when we jump in and get involved. Yep. Our church has been so cool this year because I think we have it down now through different avenues and different venues of how we can do service. We can switch within 30 minutes and go a totally different direction with, do we do it in this set? Do we do it in that set over there? Or do we go over this side of the room and do a set? Or do we go to the worship center? Do we go to the park?
Our houses.
Yeah, our houses.
I think our wives are pretty happy that it's not happening in our houses.
Yeah, well, I did it in my house for Christmas Eve. That was interesting, but took us back to some memories of this is chaotic, But we do things so different anymore as a church, and our people have been so faithful. You've gone with us, Herm Naz, around every corner, from a lockdown to, hey, you know what? We got to do things different this week, and you've registered for church online. You financially have been praying and listening and acting on what God's been telling you to do in the realm of spiritual stewardship with your finances. And because of all that, we're able to do ministry yet here in our local town and in our community and our county and even around the world, sending money to help people. But it's been a good, hard, difficult, interesting, thriving, educational year.
Yeah, and don't ask the question, can 2021 be any worse?
Yeah,
because let's not do that.
Yeah, and I don't want to repeat it.
Yeah, let's not repeat it.
I don't want to repeat it. So I'm really excited because on January 1, you know what happens?
It's a whole new year.
It's a new year, but you know what else happens?
What?
Sturgeon season opens.
Oh, well, that's good.
It is good.
I'm excited for that.
You got to be excited.
I just want to watch. I don't necessarily even need to fish. I just want to watch.
No, you need to get one of those 10-footers on there.
I want to see one pull you into the water because that would be funny.
I want to break a pole this year. I want one so big it'll break a pole. I've seen other guys break poles, and I'm like, I want to be that guy. So anyway,
tell us about what next week has for us.
Next week is all about
because it's
the new year.
Next year,
you will, which is only Anyway, so so next week, you ever do a resolution?
Oh man, yeah.
Do you ever succeed?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Never.
So next week, I think we need to talk about why people set themselves up to fail.
You know, it's a question that has plagued me. Every year you come up with these series for youth groups or for churches, big church, and you try to talk about the New Year's resolution thing, and I don't think we ever get answers.
Well, they're good for like 2 days. I think they have a 48-hour cap. Anyway, so that's like next week. Let's do that next week.
Yeah.
We'll talk. Why do we set ourselves up to fail? And not just resolution-wise, but the whole idea of we are not smart when it comes to resolutions. No. So anyway, let's talk that next time.
So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook Live. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Anchor.fm, our sponsoring app that helps us do this every week. And of course, thank you to Hermnaz, to our church, for allowing us and providing for us the avenue to be able to put on this podcast each week for you. We'll see you next week, 10 o'clock on Tuesday.
See ya.